motions of the missile. But for all that, it could just be a particular
One more.
piece of the missile that does it.
One more. We've been here many times in the last couple
More
days.
gloriously, we could imagine building some kind of a robot
Let's just go right
that does a variety of tasks.
Whoa. No, wait.
And it's not moving randomly.
No,
but
wait.
The tasks,
all right, let's
for
see.
all
What
that
rank
are
is this fellow?
controlled by the CPU within the
Silver
robot.
division.
So the physicalist says we don't need to appeal
has at
to
least
anything
200
as
wins
extravagant as a
with
soul
Songhai.
in order to explain the fact that bodies don't just move randomly, but they move in purposeful ways and are controlled. Now, for each objection,
Ranged
there's a
attacks
response.
is my guess.
You could imagine the duelist coming back and saying, but look,
Okay, let's see what we can do.
in that case of the heat-seeking missile, or the robot for that matter, although it's doing things, it's just obeying orders. And the orders were given to it from something outside itself. Something programmed the robot or the missile.
What is the best way to start?
So don't we need there to be something outside the body that programs the body? And that could be the soul. That's a harder question. Must there be something outside the body that controls the body? Well, look, one possibility, of course, is, well, why not say that people are just robots as well, and we get our commands from outside? I mean, on a familiar religious view, God builds Adam out of dirt, out of dust. Adam is just a certain kind of robot then. God sort of breathes into Adam, that's sort of turning it on, maybe people are just are just robots, commanded from outside by God, but that doesn't mean that there's anything more to us than there is to the robot. That's one possible response. Different response, of course, is why couldn't we have robots that just build more robots? And then if you ask, where did the commands come from? The answer is, well, when they were built.
What kind of trap are you?
They were built in such a way as to sort of have certain instructions that they begin to follow out. Just like people have a genetic code, perhaps, that gives us various instructions that we begin to follow out, or a certain innate psychology, or what have you.
Interesting.
Well, the argument quickly becomes very, very messy.
I should have gone invulnerable first. What was I thinking?
The fan of the soul begins to want to protest. But look, we're not just robots. We're not just robots with some sort of
there's no point in
program
going
in our
invulnerable this
brain
turn,
that we're
then.
following.
I'm gonna save it.
We've got free will. And robots can't have free will. And so there's got to be something more to us than robots. We can't just be physical things.
I'm going to try to bait him into the middle, which
This
playing
is
the way that I have so far is not going to do that.
I think it's a new argument. So we started with the idea you needed to appeal to souls in order to roughly explain why human bodies move, why we're animated, or why we move in non-random ways. And I think it's fairly clear that you don't need to appeal to souls in order to do that. Appeal to a physical body suffices, I think, to have an explanation as to the difference between an animated and an inanimate body, how bodies will move in non-random ways. If the brain is our CPU, then we'll behave in deliberate, purposeful ways, just like a robot will behave in deliberate, purposeful ways. So this initial argument, I think, is not compelling. Still, we might wonder, what about this new argument? What about the fact that, so we said, look, there's a family of arguments, all of which have the general structure, inference to the best explanation. You need souls in order to explain feature F. Plug in a different feature F and you get a new argument. The one we started with, you need the body to explain the animation. You need the soul to explain the animation of the body. That argument, I think, doesn't work. But now we've got a new one. You need the soul in order to explain free will. Let me come back to that argument later. It's a good argument. I mean, it's an argument well worth taking seriously, but let's come back to it later. First, let's run through some other things that might be appealed to as candidates for feature F. Suppose somebody says, look, it's true that we don't need to appeal to souls in order to explain why bodies move around in a non-random fashion, but people have a very special ability, and so the argument goes, that mere bodies couldn't have, physicalists can't explain. That's the ability to think. It's the ability to reason. People have beliefs and desires, and based on their beliefs about how to fulfill their desires, they make plans, they have strategies, they reason about what to do. This tightly connected set of facts about us, beliefs, desires, reasoning, strategizing, planning.
Do it.
You need to appeal to a soul,
it.
so the argument goes. You need to
Yes.
appeal to a soul to explain that. No mere machine could believe. No mere machine has desires. No mere machine could reason. Now, it's easy to see why you might think that sort of thing when you stick to sort of simple machines.
Oh, how
it's
beautiful.
pretty clear that there are lots of machines that it doesn't seem
How
natural to ascribe
How
beliefs
lovely.
or desires or goals or reasoning to. My lawnmower, for example,
Bad times.
doesn't
Bad times for you, my friend.
to cut the grass. Even though it does cut the grass, it doesn't have the desire. It doesn't think to itself, how shall I get that blade of grass that's been eluding me? So it's easy to see why we might be tempted to say no mere machine could think or reason or have beliefs or desires. But that argument's much less compelling nowadays than I think it would have been 20 or 40 years ago. In an era of computers, it seems, with quite sophisticated computer programs, it seems, at the very least, natural to talk about beliefs, desires, and reasoning, and strategizing. So suppose, for example, we've got a chess-playing computer. On my computer at home, I've got a program that allows my chess to play computer. I myself stink at chess. This program can beat me, blind. So I move, my bishop. The computer moves its queen. What do we say about the computer? Why did the computer move its queen, or its virtual queen? Why did the computer move its queen? Well, the natural thing to say is it's worried about the fact that the king is exposed, and it's trying to block me by capturing my bishop. That is what we say about computer playing programs. Now, think about what we're doing. We're ascribing desires to the program. We're saying it's got an ultimate desire to win the game, certain subsidiary desires to protect its king, to capture my king, certain other subsidiary desires, no doubt, to protect its various other pieces along the way. It's got beliefs about how to do that by blocking certain paths or by making other pieces on my side vulnerable. It's got beliefs about how to achieve its goals, and then it puts those combinations of beliefs and desires into action by moving in a way that's a rational response to my move. So it looks as though the natural thing to say about the chess-playing computer is it does have beliefs, it does have desires, it does have intentions, it does have goals, it does reason, it does all of this. It's rational to this limited extent. It's only able to play chess, but to that extent, it's doing all these things. And yet, we're not tempted to say, are we, that the computer has a non-physical part. We can explain how the computer does all of this in strictly physical terms.
Oh, no.
And of course, once you start thinking
he
of it,
can go
it's
invulnerable
natural
next turn.
to talk this way across a variety of things that the computer may be trying to do. Now, of course, it's perfectly open to you as a duelist to respond by saying, yeah, although we personify the computer, We treat it as though it was a person, as though it had beliefs
and
desires
risky.
and so forth. It doesn't really have the relevant beliefs and desires because it doesn't have any beliefs and desires because no physical object could have beliefs and desires. And in response to that, I just want to say, isn't that just prejudice? Of course, it is true that if we simply insist no physical object could really have beliefs or desires, then it will follow
he can't kill
that
it.
when we are tempted
he can go invincible,
to
but
ascribe
he can't
beliefs
kill it.
and desires to my chess-playing computer, we're falling into an illusion.
I guess he
will
can.
follow
Yeah,
once we assume that no physical object has beliefs or desires. But what reason is there for saying it has
no big deal.
no beliefs or desires? What grounds is there for withholding ascriptions of beliefs and desires to the computer? That's far from obvious.
No gravity wells.
Well, here's a possibility. Desires, at the very least, seem to be, at least in typical cases, very closely tied to a series of emotions. You get excited when you're playing chess at the prospect of capturing my queen and crushing me. You get worried.
I'm lucky that
when
spine
your
walls
pieces are
what
threatened.
appeared on that side. You can't clear it to
And of course,
attack
more
me.
generally, you get excited when your heart goes pitter-pat, when your girlfriend or boyfriend says they love you. Your stomach sinks. You get that sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach, when you get a bad grade on a test. Maybe what's really going on is the thought that there's an aspect of desire that has a purely behavioral side. That's, moving pieces around in a way that would make sense if you had this goal. But and maybe machines can do that.
Wow, weird.
But there's an aspect of desires, the emotional side, that machines can't have. But we clearly do have.
Is that all she wrote?
And maybe we want to build that emotional side into
you did your best, man.
Of desires. So maybe
he
if
ran
we want
away.
to say machines don't have a mental life and couldn't have a mental life,
all right, well,
what we
let's
really
see
mean
what the
is
response to
no
that is.
machine could feel anything emotionally. So let's distinguish. Let's say there's a way of talking about beliefs and desires which is just going to be captured in terms of, responding in a way that makes sense given the environment, right? And maybe computers and robots could do that. But there's clearly a side of our mental life, the emotional side, where we might really worry, could a robot feel love? Could it be afraid of anything? So look, again, our question was, do we need to appeal to souls to explain something about us? Physicalist says no. Duelyst says yes. If what we mean is the mental, but the aspect, the behavioral aspect of the mental, where even a chess-playing computer probably has it, then that's not a very compelling argument. Physicalists will say, look, that aspect of the mental is pretty clear. We can explain in physical terms. But let's just switch the argument. What about emotions? Can a robot feel emotions? Could a purely physical being fall in love? Could it be afraid of things? Could it hope for something? The latest version of our argument then is people can feel emotions.
There it
If
is.
you think about it, it's pretty clear.
Is that
no
rank 10?
robot could feel
Have
emotions.
I finally made gold level?
No merely physical thing could feel emotions. And so there must be more to us than a merely physical thing. That's the argument we'll start with next time.
Finally. Rank 10. And I even got a little bonus cushion there. Well, we did it. It almost feels anticlimactic. It
We've
feels
been talking
like
about the question
we have farther to go.
Arguments might be offered
But it's
for
the first time I ever made it
existence
this
of a
far.
soul. And
I'm very happy.
Family of arguments that we're considering initially are
not a bad
arguments that
last
get known
match.
as inference or inferences
Thank you
to the
all
best
who are
explanation
currently
of thought
watching,
is
all
that